What's up, everybody? This is Whiskey in the Six. I'm Rob. So I did a video earlier on the barrel over here, and I found out that there was actually only about 100 milliliters left somehow. So what my friend and I pretty much discovered is that if you don't fill the barrel close to the top, evaporation moves at a much more alarming rate. So it was about 3 months in that barrel, that small one right there on the corner of my desk, and it evaporated to the point where it lost 650 milliliters of the original spirit that was inside the barrel. So unfortunately, I will not be doing a review on what was inside, but the contents of the vodka that was aged in there for 3 months was very good. So if you're out there and you're interested in aging your own vodka, preferably a grain spirit, and turning it into a whiskey, I highly recommend it. Just make sure you buy enough to fill the barrel about 3/4 of the entire barrel. This way, if you do lose any to evaporation, it's not so drastic. All right, I think with the 2 bottles of Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye, we lost about maybe 100 milliliters, and that's only because it filled the barrel much more. Okay, so there's some food for thought if you're interested in aging your own spirit in a wood oak barrel. The Glendronach Allardice 18-year-old. This is non-chill filtered, no added color. This particular one was bottled in 2015, which actually makes it closer to 20 years old. All right. This was a gift from a friend in Alberta, one of the many that he sent me, Chris Q. So I want to thank you again. It's really good stuff. I actually sat on Saturday night and poured a glass of this and poured a glass of the 2013 Glendronach that I opened and reviewed not too long ago, which was closer to 18 years old. That was the revival, the 15-year-old revival. They're very similar. Having a little bit more time with this recently, I've concluded that this one is a touch smoother. Now, it's bottled and says 18 years old, but if you go back to my Glendronach 15-year-old revival review, you can see in the comments below I added a website that tells you the actual age of the whiskey. Because Glendronach closed down for 6 years, they use older whiskeys in some of their newer bottlings. All right, they stopped doing that with the 12-year-old. I believe it was in 2014 or 15, something like that. They are going to continue doing it with the 15-year-old up until next year, 2016. So 2016 will be the oldest Glendronach revival. It'll be 21 years old. Then it resets back to the 15 years old for every expression. This one's going to continue for a little while longer as well, and then it'll reset back to 18 years old. And the 21-year-old actually starts, they're going to be using older whiskey now, like very shortly. So I think it's going to go up to 24 or 25 years old. So keep an eye out for that in the years to come, because the Parliament should get really, really good really, really fast. Okay. So I'm going to nose and taste the Allardice here. It's the Glendronach 18-year-old. Really, really good stuff. So here we go. Okay. It takes a while to open up, so I'm gonna go by what I know about it, but it's all subtly there. It just really opens up after about 20 minutes, after about even a half hour. After a half hour, you get a basically a dessert dram. Okay, so this is exclusively Asian Oloroso. Unlike the 12-year-old and the 21-year-old that are Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez, this is more like the Revival that's exclusively Oloroso sherry. Okay, like I said, unchill filtered, no added color. All right, bottled at 46% on the nose. Figs, dates, very sweet dates. Chocolate. It's not as smoky as the Revival in my opinion. It's a little less smoky. It doesn't have as much of that char, that tobacco smoke. Cigar smoke would be a better way to put it, not cigarette smoke. Cigarette smoke is gross. Very, very chocolatey. A little bit of oak, some cinnamon. It smells really, really sweet, okay? Super sweet on the entry. Continues to be sweet mid-palate. Continues to be sweet on the finish. It's very chocolatey, milk chocolatey. It's smoother than the Glendronach 15-year-old Revival. Now, like I said, that's the 2013 bottling that I reviewed. So the ones that I have here, I'm very curious. I think, and I'm going to take a stab at this, but I'm not 100% sure. I think the major difference between the Revival and the Allardice is the level of char on the barrels. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. If you know better, please inform me below. But I'm going to say that there's less char here, and for whatever reason, usually more char means more smoothing of the whiskey, but for whatever reason, like I said, this one is smoother. It is older. Technically, the Glendronach 15-year-old that's bottled in 2013 is 18 years old, whereas this 18-year-old Glendronach that's bottled in 2015 is 20 years old. So that's the difference there. So maybe that extra 2 years made the difference in smoothness. It took a little bit of that kick away from the alcohol abbreviation, but they're both bottled at 46% and they're both very close in age. So I'm gonna say perhaps a couple differences that the distillery decided to do to distinguish between the Revival and the Allardice. But a lot of people prefer the Revival. Tonight I'm gonna go with the Allardice, but it's a toss-up. Okay, the other night I preferred the Revival. Tonight, it seems like I'm going with the Allardice, but like I said, it's a toss-up and they're very, very, very close. I would say this is more for the person that enjoys a sweet dessert type dram. Okay, whereas the Revival is a little bit more, well, a lot more complex in my opinion. It's got more smoke, it's got more oak, it's got things that a lot of the connoisseurs are looking for. So I can understand why a lot of people prefer the Revival as opposed to the Allardice. Right? One more time on the palate. It's got a thick viscosity, very chocolatey, very dessert-like. Christmas cake, perfect for this time of year. For cognac lovers, I highly, highly recommend any of the Glendronach line, especially the 18-year-old, the 21-year-old, and the Revival. Okay, they are perfect transition from being a cognac lover to a whiskey lover. All right, if you're not usually into Scotch, you're more into your cognacs, your rums, this would be your perfect transition into Scotch because it's at par in terms of sweetness with many of the rums and cognacs that I've tasted. That's really, really good. That's an A for me. Last, I guess it was Saturday when I was comparing the two, I felt like I was gonna give this an A minus, and I felt like the Revival was a notch better. I'm gonna say that they're very, very close, if not identical, okay? As far as quality goes. Taste-wise, they are different. Like I said, this is less smoky, it's more sweet. The Revival's a little more smoky and a little more oak spice, which is really nice. But both very, very, very good. All right, so that's an A for me. I'll get you guys another look at this bottle. If you're curious where to find where it's bottled, it's at the back. You can't see it. I doubt you can see it through the camera. It's below the label. It's usually in black. This one says 2015. All right. Have a look if you have any of the Glendronachs. If you have the 12-year-old, you really want to get a 2013 because that's the oldest. I believe it was 18 years old at that time. After that, it went back to 12 years old. So if you have a newer Glendronach 12-year-old, it's 12 years old. It's still very good, just not as good as the 2013 was. All right, that's it for today. I'm not gonna do the Glenmorangie set this week. I'm gonna leave that for Whiskey Whistle to take care of Glenmorangie. He's gonna do an awesome job with it. If you're very interested in Glenmorangie, go check out Whiskey Whistle. He's a great guy, Mark. I have a ton of stuff coming up. I'm not sure when I'm gonna fit it all in. I'd also like to get in some of these little miniatures that I have here. It's gonna happen. It might take me into the new year. And before the end of the year, I'd like to pick a Whiskey in the Six Whiskey of the Year. So we'll see what that's gonna be. Hopefully I'll get a chance to crack my Glengoyne 25-year-old because I have a funny suspicion that that might be the Whiskey of the Year. We'll see. Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. Add me on Instagram and Twitter if you're interested. Can keep you up to date that way. All right. Cheers.